Hello there, you're on VITV with Into Vietnam News. We update the business events here in the country in today's headlines. The government announces solution for socio-economic development this year. Nearly 759 billion dong is disbursed in Realty Bailout Fund. And overseas employment growth is expected to boost 2014 remittances. The government has issued its first resolution in 2014 on major tasks and solutions to realize a socio-economic development and budget estimate plan for 2014.
The overall targets of the socio-economic plan for 2014 approved by the National Assembly include macroeconomic stability, inflation curbing, and reasonable growth rate. Accordingly, Vietnam hopes to obtain GDP growth rate of around 5.8%, export turnover increase of about 10%, excess of imports over exports at 6%, CPI increase of 7%, total investment for social development of around 30% of GDP, state budget overspending of 5.3%, poverty reduction of 1.72%, and 1.6 million of new jobs. To fulfill the above targets, the government will focus on conducting flexible and effective monetary policy and tight fiscal policy, practicing thrift, implementing 3 strategic breakthroughs, creating favorable conditions for businesses to access to capital, and comprehensively restructuring credit organizations. Under the resolution, the government will also speed up SOEs, equitization, boost non-core divestment, shift from processing and manufacturing to production, deeply integrate into the global value chains, ensure social welfare, and improve people's living standards.
The Prime Minister issued Decision 2631 approving the Master Plan for Ho Chi Minh City Socio-Economic Development Plan till 2020 with a vision towards 2025. According to this decision, Ho Chi Minh City will be expanded and developed in all directions. The master plan divides the city into 6 areas of development, including the urban development zone, industrial development zone, ecological tourism zone, agricultural zone in combination with ecological belt, rural residential zone, and nature conservation area. The city development model is based on central multipolar model. The central zone is a downtown area with a radius of 15 kilometers, including District 1, 3, part of District 4, Binh Thanh District, and Thủ Thiêm New Urban Zone in District Number 2. In 2014, banks in Ho Chi Minh City will continue to extend to business and household preferential loans, with the expected disbursement amount of 25 to 30 trillion dong, doubling that of 2013. Last year, bank disbursed to businesses in the area about 13.5 trillion dong of preferential loans, with gradually decreasing interest rates. In the fourth quarter of 2013, preferential interest rates was at 8 to 8.5% per annum for short-term loans and less than 10% for medium and long-term loans. The difference this year is lending programs will be extended to all areas instead of priority areas as before. The credit growth target in 2014 of the city is 12 to 14%, which is quite high as the credit growth of 2013 was less than 9%. Therefore, Ho Chi Minh City is trying to make plans early to accelerate credit growth this year, including the 30 trillion dong housing support package, lending via business connection program, and lending to stabilize prices. The State Bank of Vietnam on January the 14th announced that the banking system has disbursed 758.7 billion dong of the 30 trillion dong housing support package to 1,765 customers as of December the 31st, 2013. Earlier, banks committed to offer loans to 1,789 customers with a total capital of 1.8 trillion dong. The Bank for Investment and Development of Vietnam recorded the highest disbursement of 146.5 billion dong or $69 million, followed by the Vietnam Bank for Foreign Trade with 128 billion dong, or more than $6 million. The lowest disbursement was seen in the Mekong Housing Bank, with 6.2 billion dong, or $2.9 million. Remittances to Vietnam are expected to increase this year, boosted by better employment prospects in overseas market and new investment by overseas Vietnamese. Remittances increased over the past 3 years, reaching $9 billion in 2011, $10 billion in 2012, and $11 billion last year. There are two main sources for the country remittance inflows. The incomes of Vietnamese workers overseas are likely to increase as unemployment rates fall to 4 to 5% from 9 to 10% in some developed countries, including United States, Canada, and Australia. In addition, the government policies have become more supportive for Vietnamese workers hoping to work abroad. Workers can send money home for investment, and according to the latest decree on the implementation of land and housing law, Vietnamese individuals who live abroad but have retained their Vietnamese citizenship can now buy property without restrictions. Moreover, the increasing stability of the dong has aided in attracting increased remittances. According to the Committee for Overseas Vietnamese Affairs, some 4.5 million Vietnamese live in more than 100 countries and territories around the world. There are also around 500,000 Vietnamese guest workers. The merging and acquisition activity are expected to be vibrant in 2014 as the Vietnamese government has issued Decree No. 1 allowing the increasing ownership rate of strategic foreign investors in local credit institutions. The decree is due to take effect on February the 20th, 2014. Accordingly, weak commercial banks that need to be restructured can sell more than 30% of the stakes if allowed by the Prime Minister. The new regulation has been in spotlight in media at the beginning of this year as it brings about both benefits and risks for commercial banks. Since February the 20th, 2014, strategic foreign investors will be allowed to buy as much as 20% stake in local banks, and their ownership limit was set at 30%. In case of weak credit institutions would need restructuring, the room limit may be increased to surpass 30%. These are major contents of Decree No. 1, which has been highly appreciated by economic experts.
Thật sự quy định này đưa ra là trong cái mục đích là tái cấu trúc ngành ngân hàng, và chính vì cái mục đích tái cấu trúc ngành ngân hàng để ngân hàng trở nên lành mạnh hơn mà có cái điều khoản này.
Chúng tôi vẫn đánh giá đó là một cái động thái tích cực thể hiện cái sự quyết tâm, cái cam kết của chính phủ cũng như ngân hàng nhà nước đã tuyên bố trong năm 2013 vừa qua. Và ngay từ đầu năm chúng ta bắt tay vào câu chuyện này thì đó là một cái động thái khá là lạc quan và được thị trường đón nhận tích cực.
However, the question is how effective the decree will be. It is supposed to benefit the banking sector in theory, but in fact, when foreign investors and local credit institutions so much interest in the move, as it will affect the banking brand name.
Một nhà đầu tư nước ngoài khi mà họ được phép vượt cái quy định 30% cho tất cả các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài, thì cái ngân hàng ở trong nước mà ngân hàng đó được bán cổ phần cho các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài thì phải thuộc loại yếu kém. Thì với các tổ chức ở trong nước thì họ phải là tổ chức yếu kém. Thì đối với họ có lẽ cũng không phải là một cái điều mong muốn là họ phải thuộc loại yếu kém thì bây giờ mới được các nước ngoài vượt cái quy định 30%. Rồi với các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài thì họ phải mua với một ngân hàng có thể vượt 30% nhưng mà phải là cái ngân hàng mà yếu kém. Thì đối với cả hai, những một ngân hàng ở trong nước và nhà đầu tư nước ngoài, có thể đó là cái quy định mà họ không mong muốn.
In addition, the big stake is not attractive to all investors. The level of investment depends on the investor business strategy and resources.
Theo tôi nghĩ thì nó cũng sẽ có những cải thiện nhất định. Thế nhưng mà theo tôi nghĩ thì nó không phải là yếu tố quyết định. Bởi vì chúng ta biết là không phải nhà đầu tư nào cũng muốn chiếm một cái tỷ lệ sở hữu lớn ở trong các cái tổ chức tín dụng. Họ có thể chỉ muốn chiếm khoảng nắm giữ khoảng 5-10 có thể không có nhiều nhà đầu tư muốn nắm giữ tới 20%, cho nên tác dụng của cái việc nới room này theo tôi nghĩ là tích cực nhưng mà nó không lớn.
The most important factor determining the efficiency of buying stake lies in the process of restructuring. Relevant authorities should develop clear roadmap and regulations for foreign investors. Otherwise, this may trigger negative reactions on Vietnam's investment environment.
Cho nên quan điểm của tôi thì cho rằng cái nghị quyết, cái nghị định nó là một cái thông điệp đầu năm tích cực. Nhưng quan trọng hơn là triển khai, thực hiện nó như thế nào. Cái thứ hai là chúng ta tiếp tục nới room ở cái ngưỡng nào thì chính phủ, ngân hàng nhà nước cũng cần phải có cái xác định trước.
Local banks have obviously increasing need to mobilize foreign funds in their M&A activities. However, a number of M&A deals have been unsuccessful. In fact, some foreign investors have withdrawn capital from local banks after investing for a short time. As their partners do not change their management and operations, lessons should be drawn so that foreign investors and local banks will agree on ways to boost their joint business. And now it's time for some foreign trade news.
Government economists are predicting significant expansion for Vietnam's agricultural exports in 2014. According to the Vietnam Fruit and Vegetable Association, 2014 is another bumper year for vegetable exports, which have experienced annual growth rates of 20% to 30% in recent years. The Vietnam Paper Association, in turn, has forecast that the export volume of paper will be around 125,000 to 130,000 tons, with total revenue remaining relatively unchanged from 2013 at $900 million. For rice exports, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and Vietnam Food Association said the export outlook is expected to remain unchanged compared to 2013. VFA says Vietnam's rice exports will reach around 6.5 to 7 million tons this year. China overtook the Republic of Korea to claim the position as the fourth largest importer of Vietnamese seafood in 2013, with shrimp exports accounting for over 60% of the total figure. According to the Vietnam Association of Seafood Exporters and Producers, or VASEF, last year Vietnam's seafood exports to China totaled almost $560 million, up 38% year-on-year, of which shrimp exports increased 53% against 2012 to about $350 million. Shrimp imports into China interrupted due to its supply shortage caused by early mortality syndrome and high shrimp demand for processing. Vietnam secured the third place among the world's shrimp exporters in 2013 with a total value of $2.5 billion, representing a yearly rise of nearly 33% and accounting for 44% of its total aquatic export turnover.
And last but not least, it's today's update of local gold prices, forex, and stock markets. Well, that's all for this edition of Into Vietnam. Thank you so much for your time with us. We'll see you soon, and goodbye for now.